Welcome back to our channel. Today we're following a touching and heartwarming story. After spending time recovering at the farm that Thu gave to them, Toan has decided to go ahead with his wedding to Diem, witnessed by their loved ones, Thu's mother and the old woman. This isn't a grand or extravagant wedding. It's a simple but deeply meaningful moment where love and connection are shown through every warm wish and every loving glance. Will the love between Toan and Diem help them overcome all challenges and build a happy life together? And will the old woman feel at peace, seeing them move on to a new chapter of their lives? To find out more about this emotional story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Follow along with us and share your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Under the shade of a large tree in the middle of the farm, the afternoon seemed to slow down. A gentle breeze carried the scent of damp soil and young grass. Toan leaned against the tree, staring into the distance as if listening to his own breathing. Beside him, Diem stayed quiet long enough to feel the calm slowly returning to him. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, placing her hand over his. Toan turned to her and smiled. "I am. Being here, everything makes me feel like myself again. Like the pieces in my head are finally settling into place." Diem nodded, her eyes softening. "I can see you changing every day. You're not lost anymore. Not like before." Toan looked at her and spoke slowly. "Because of you. You never pushed me to remember. You were just there. I think sometimes peace is the answer." The silence between them felt easy. Birds chirped somewhere in the distance, blending with the wind. Diem took a deep breath, as if she had prepared for this moment for a long time. "Toan, what do you think about getting married?" The question was gentle, but it went straight to his heart. Toan stayed quiet for a few seconds, then tightened his grip on her hand. "I've thought about it a lot. Not about whether my memories are complete, but about whether my heart is certain." He looked directly into her eyes. "And it is." Diem smiled, her eyes shining with trust. "That's all I need." Toan continued, "I want a simple wedding. Here with the people who love us. No show, just a promise." "Me too," Diem said. "A home, peaceful mornings, and a future we build together." Toan let out a soft laugh. "Have you thought about kids yet?" She looked surprised, then blushed slightly. "I have. I think one child first, and if life allows, maybe another. We'll teach them to love the land and to love people." Toan squeezed her hand. "I want to be a good father. I may not be perfect, but I'll learn." Diem rested her head on his shoulder. "I believe in you." The afternoon light turned golden around the house. They sat closer together. No need to say much more. The promise had already been made, not with flowers or rings, but with the peace they felt right then. Ahead of them was a simple wedding, a small family and children growing up in the open air, and in love, a new life beginning here. That day, soft sunlight streamed through the windows, lighting up the warm, cozy space of Toan and Diem's small home. The wedding celebration wasn't loud or extravagant, but it was filled with warmth and love. Their wedding took place right at home, the place where Toan and Diem had begun building new memories together, full of hope for the future. Thu's mother, Thu and the old woman, were there to witness this important moment. They stood nearby, smiling as they watched the young couple exchange their vows. Diem stood beside Toan, her eyes shining with happiness, while Toan looked at her with quiet confidence. There was no crowd and no loud applause, but the room was filled with affection and a deep sense of peace. Thu's mother stood next to Thu, holding her son's hand tightly, her eyes gentle yet full of emotion. "Congratulations, my children," she said softly. It wasn't just a blessing. It was her sense of relief and reassurance, seeing her son find a partner who truly belonged with him. The old woman stood close by, her eyes bright with pride. "You two are truly happy," she said, with a smile gently patting Toan on the shoulder. "Just live like this. Don't worry too much. Just love each other, and that's enough." Toan and Diem exchanged a knowing look, and as they met each other's eyes, all worries and past hardships seemed to fade away. On that day, they had found each other completely, and now they were ready to step into a new life, without fear, guided only by love and connection. With their loved ones by their side, the small wedding became a sacred and meaningful moment, affirming a bright future that Toan and Diem would build together. The space inside the small house was warm and cozy, simply arranged, but full of meaning. Diem and Toan stood facing each other, holding hands tightly, their eyes filled with love. This wedding wasn't extravagant, but to them, it was the most important moment of their lives. They didn't need anything grand. Having their loved ones there was more than enough. Thu's mother stood close by, smiling gently, her eyes filled with satisfaction and affection. She knew her son had found the right life partner, and she was truly happy to witness this moment. Thu stood beside his mother, unable to hide his pride and happiness. Even though he had known this day would come, seeing it happen still stirred deep emotions within him. The old woman, who had been by Toan's side through his hardest days, watched them with bright, glistening eyes. She didn't say a word, but the warmth and love in her gaze were enough for Toan to feel her care. Her blessings and encouragement weren't just words. They were the protection and support she had given him all along. At this moment, there was no loud music or applause from a crowd. Only a sacred silence filled the room, as if the world held just Diem and Toan. Everything else seemed to fade as they looked into each other's eyes and exchanged their vows. Diem spoke softly, her voice gentle but sincere. "You are the only person I need, and I will always stay by your side no matter what happens." Toan looked at her, holding her hand even tighter, and replied, "You are my family. We'll face every hardship together and build a beautiful future." Thu's mother and the old woman both felt the sincerity in their words. Thu smiled and turned to his mother. Without saying anything, his eyes said it all. The old woman also remained silent, gently patting Toan on the shoulder, her eyes shining with relief and joy. Toan and Diem shared a soft kiss, a quiet symbol of their love and bond. Words of congratulations came from Thu's mother and the old woman, but deep down, no more words were needed. They had found happiness in these simple moments. Today may not have been dazzling, but for Toan and Diem, it was a deeply meaningful wedding, one built on love, sacrifice, and trust, forming a strong foundation for the new life they were about to begin. After the quiet kiss and the gentle words of congratulations, the room settled into a calm that felt deeper than silence. It wasn't awkward or empty. It was the kind of quiet that comes when everyone present understands that something important has just happened and nothing needs to be added. Diem and Toan stayed close still, holding hands as if letting go too soon might break the moment. The sunlight shifted slowly across the wooden floor, warming the space near the doorway. Outside, the farm was peaceful. No music, no crowds, no decorations beyond a few simple flowers placed on the table. But inside that house, there was a sense of completion. Thu was the first to move. He stepped forward, clearing his throat lightly, then smiled at the couple. "Well," he said, half joking, half sincere, "I guess it's official now." Everyone laughed softly, and the tension that had quietly built during the vows finally released. Thu's mother walked toward Diem and gently adjusted the collar of her dress, a simple gesture filled with care. "You look beautiful," she said. "Not because of the dress, because you're calm, because you're sure." Diem nodded, her voice steady. "I am. Thank you for trusting me with him." The older woman smiled. "He found his way here, and so did you. That's all a mother can ask for." Nearby, the old woman sat down slowly on a wooden chair, watching them with quiet satisfaction. She had seen hardship, loss, and long nights of worry. This moment felt like a reward, not just for Toan, but for everyone who had walked beside him when life was uncertain. She spoke at last. "Life won't always be like today," she said calmly. "There will be days when things feel heavy again." Toan nodded. "I know." But now she continued, "You won't face those days alone." That was all she said, and it was enough. They gathered around the small dining table for a simple meal. Nothing fancy, home-cooked dishes, familiar flavors, food that felt grounding. Diem helped serve, moving naturally in the space, as if she had always belonged there. Toan watched her quietly, noticing how comfortable she looked, how easily she fit into this life. As they ate, conversation drifted gently from memories of the farm to small jokes, to plans that didn't feel rushed or pressured. "Are you staying here after the wedding?" Thu asked. "Yes," Toan answered without hesitation. "At least for now. This place gave me time to breathe. I don't want to leave that behind too quickly." Diem nodded. "We want to build something slow, stable." Thu raised his glass of water. "That sounds like the smartest plan I've heard in a long time." After the meal, they stepped outside together. The late afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the grass. A light breeze moved through the trees, carrying the familiar scent of the land. Diem stood beside Toan, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "Does it feel real yet?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "Yes, but not in a dramatic way. It feels steady, like something that won't disappear when I wake up." She smiled. "That's exactly how it feels to me too." They walked slowly toward the edge of the field, away from the house, but still within sight of it. The voices behind them faded into the background. "Toan," she said softly, "are you scared?" He didn't avoid the question. "A little. Not of us, just of not being enough." She stopped walking and turned to face him. "You don't have to be perfect," she said. "Just honest. Just present." He met her gaze. "I can do that." As the sun dipped lower, the family gathered once more near the doorway. Thu's mother brought out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. She handed it to Diem. "This belonged to my mother," she said. "It's nothing valuable, but it carries years of care. I want you to have it." Diem accepted it, carefully, visibly moved. "I'll treasure it." The old woman watched this exchange with a quiet smile. For her, the future no longer felt uncertain. She had worried about Toan for a long time, about whether he would find peace, whether he would ever stop carrying his past alone. Now standing there watching him beside Diem, she finally felt at ease. As evening approached, the light softened, turning the sky a pale orange. There was no formal ending to the wedding, no announcement, no final song. People simply began to say goodbye. Thu was the last to leave. Before stepping away, he pulled Toan into a brief embrace. "You did good," he said. "Don't forget that." "I won't," Toan replied. When the house finally grew quiet again, Diem and Toan stood side by side in the doorway, looking out at the land in front of them. So she said, "Husband." He laughed softly. "Wife." They stood there for a moment, longer, letting the words settle. Inside the house, nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. There were no grand promises written down, no expectations placed on tomorrow. Just two people choosing each other calmly, clearly, and without fear. That night, as the farm settled into darkness and the world grew still, a new chapter began. Not loudly, not dramatically, but firmly. And this time, it was built to last. The night after the wedding was quiet, in a way Toan hadn't felt in years. Not empty, not heavy, just still. The house rested under the soft glow of a single lamp, its light spilling gently across the wooden floor. Outside, insects hummed in the distance, steady and familiar, like the land itself breathing. Diem moved around the small kitchen, rinsing cups, placing them upside down on a cloth. She wasn't rushing. There was no reason to. For the first time in a long while, nothing was chasing them. Toan watched her from the doorway. "You look like you belong here," he said. She glanced over her shoulder and smiled. "So do you." They finished tidying up together, moving naturally around each other, already slipping into a rhythm that felt earned rather than forced. When everything was done, they sat side by side on the edge of the bed. The window open, just enough to let the night air drift in. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Diem broke the silence. "Do you know what I was most afraid of?" He shook his head. "That after today, everything would suddenly feel different," she said. "Like we'd wake up tomorrow and realize we'd changed into people we didn't recognize." Toan thought about that. "I was afraid of the opposite," he admitted. "That nothing would change at all. That I'd still feel lost." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "And now, he said slowly, I feel grounded. Like I finally know where I'm standing." They lay down without ceremony, without expectation. Just two people sharing space, listening to the night. Sleep came easily. Morning arrived quietly. Sunlight crept through the curtains, warming the room inch by inch. Diem woke first and stayed still, watching Toan sleep. His breathing was steady, peaceful. She noticed the small details, the relaxed line of his face, the absence of tension she used to see even when he rested. She smiled to herself. When he finally stirred, he blinked against the light and turned toward her. "Good morning," she said. He paused, then smiled back. Good morning. They stayed in bed longer than usual, not because they were tired, but because there was no urgency pulling them apart. Eventually, they got up and stepped outside together. The farm greeted them the same way it always had: open land, quiet air, the smell of soil, and plants beginning their day. Nothing had changed, and yet everything felt different. So Diem said, stretching slightly, "What do married people do on their first morning?" Toan laughed. "I have no idea." "Coffee," she suggested. "Coffee sounds right." They made breakfast together, simple and unplanned. As they ate, Toan found himself thinking not about the past, not about missing memories, but about the days ahead. Practical things, small things. "We should fix the fence on the west side," he said suddenly. She raised an eyebrow. "Already planning." "Not planning," he corrected. "Just imagining." She nodded. "I like that." Later that morning, the old woman stopped by, walking slowly up the path with her familiar steady pace. She didn't knock. She never did. "I figured you'd be awake," she said, glancing at the open door. Diem greeted her warmly and brought out a chair. Toan poured tea. The old woman studied them for a moment, then nodded. "You look settled." "That's a good word for it," Toan replied. She sipped her tea. "Marriage doesn't fix everything," she said bluntly, "but it gives you a place to return to when things get hard." Diem listened carefully. "We're not expecting perfection." "Good," the old woman said. "Perfection doesn't last. Commitment does." After she left, the day unfolded slowly. They worked in the garden together, hands in the soil, side by side. There was no pressure to talk constantly. Silence came and went naturally. At one point, Toan paused and looked around. "I used to think I had to remember everything to move forward. And now," Diem asked, "now, I think I just need to live honestly from here." She reached for his hand. "That's more than enough." In the afternoon, they sat beneath the same tree where they had once talked about marriage. The shade felt familiar, safe. "Do you ever miss the idea of a big wedding?" Toan asked casually. She smiled. "No. This fits us. Loud moments don't always mean meaningful ones." He nodded. "I'm glad we chose this." As the sun began to lower, they talked about the future, not in sweeping dreams, but in real steps. Fixing the house, growing more food, maybe opening the farm to others someday, teaching children to respect the land. That evening, as they prepared dinner, Toan realized something quietly profound. He wasn't waiting anymore, not for memories, not for answers, not for a sign. Life was happening now, and he was part of it. Later, as night fell again, they sat on the porch, watching the stars emerge one by one. "Are you happy?" Diem asked. He didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Are you?" She smiled. "Yes." That was the simplest truth they could share. Inside the house, the lamp glowed once more. Outside, the farm rested under the sky. Tomorrow would bring work challenges, ordinary moments, but tonight they had something steady, a home, a promise, and a life they were building slowly, intentionally together. And for the first time in a long while, that was enough.